Hey guys, Mr. Happy here, and today we are going to discuss the strategy for Ultima Hard Mode. This fight will become available after you clear the main story, as well as obtaining an average item level of 61 or higher. In order to unlock this fight, head to Revenant's Toll in Mordona and walk into the main building where the quest, the Ultimate Ballad, will become available to you. This fight will have you facing off in a rematch against Ultima Weapon, and he retains a lot of his power from your previous encounter with him. His first phase will last for 50% of his HP, and will be broken up into 3 mini-phases. His second phase will also consist of pattern-like mini-phases, and being prepared for a lot of these moves is essential to surviving. You will have approximately 10 minutes to finish off Ultima Weapon before he will enrage and cast Ultima on your raid, instantly wiping your party. I will attach a walkthrough of the fight at the end of this guide, so I can discuss how we dealt with the fight mechanics as a whole. When the fight starts, have your main tank get some good aggro while the raid spreads out loosely around the center of the arena. The first mechanic you can expect to deal with is Viscous Aetheroplasm. This attack will deal several hundred damage as well as place a stacking debuff on its primary target. This debuff does not debilitate your main tank in any way. However, if it reaches 5 stacks, that target will instantly die. So you want to make sure to do tank swaps every 3 or 4 stacks. Oh, and by the way, Ultima does hit pretty hard, for about 1000 to 1400 damage per auto attack on an item level 70 warrior for reference. Ultima will also shoot homing missiles at random targets during the fight, for just a few hundred damage. On top of this, he will also do Cerulean Vent to any players in melee range, again, hitting for several hundred damage. For the first mini phase of this encounter, he will utilize some of Ifrit, Garuda, and Titan's abilities. For Garuda, he will summon a giant Garuda in the center that will target about 40% of the room and cast Mistral's Song. This hits extremely hard, for about 2600 even on an item level 70 warrior, so try not to get hit by it. To make things even more difficult for the tank and everyone else, he also casts Ifrit's Vulcan Burst to knock any nearby players back, dealing about another 500 damage, but it can also send you flying into the wall, preventing you from dodging Mistral's Song. Finally, he will utilize Garuda's Outside Vortex, immediately followed by Titan's Geocrush in the center of the arena. Move in and out of these quickly to avoid them. He will then repeat this pattern of Mistral Song, Vulcan Burst, Vortex, and Geocrush until he gets to about 80% HP, where he will lose Garuda's power and enter his next mini-phase. For the next phase of the encounter, he will only use Ifrit and Titan's attacks. He will start with Radiant Plumes along the outside, and then do Weight of the Land in the middle. There is a safe spot in the very center of the Weight of the Lands, so you can just move to the very center of the arena if you aren't sure if you'll be able to escape them quickly enough running away from them. The next time he uses Plumes plus Weight of Land, it'll be the opposite, with the Plumes in the center and the weights along the outside. Again, there are safe spots to avoid the weights along the outside. Additionally, Ultima Weapon will gain access to a new move, Tank Purge. This attack simply does raid-wide AoE damage for about 1500 to 2000 every time he casts it. At 65%, he will now also lose all of Titan's abilities, so now he shall only use Ifrit's abilities. He'll start the phase off with Eruptions. He will spawn 1 Eruption under 2 random players other than the main tank and the off tank. These Eruptions will follow these 2 players for a total of 5 Eruptions, meaning that before it's all over, 10 Eruptions will have gone off. Just stay on the move and try not to kill any of your teammates with it. After that, he will summon several Radiant Plumes in a somewhat odd pattern. First, it will be the 4 in the 4 corners of the map, then a straight line down the middle, then 4 in the corners again, and then in a straight line again. During all this, Ifrit will do 2 dashes through the center of the room. These 2 Ifrit mechanics will repeat in this pattern until 50%, where Ultima will lose Ifrit's abilities and he will enter his second phase. Immediately upon going into this phase, Ultima Weapon will cast a new move, Etheric Boom. This is by far the hardest part of the encounter. When Ultima Weapon casts this, he will knock back everyone in the room, away from himself. Additionally, he will summon 4 orbs, with each being linked to one immediately across from it. These orbs will slowly start moving towards their linked target. Should they reach each other, they will explode and instantly wipe the raid. These orbs cannot be targeted or damaged. The only way to remove them from the field is to go crashing into them headfirst. However, this must be carefully planned. When one orb explodes, it will split its damage to all the targets within its blast radius, which can be anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 damage depending on who takes the hit. Tanks with defensive cooldowns can usually eat an orb safely, be healed up, and eat another. DPS and healers, on the other hand, will instantly die if they are not grouped up with multiple players. Keep in mind that hollowed ground will not prevent you from taking damage on these orbs. The other way to handle them is to group up after they spawn and run through them as a group, greatly reducing the damage they do to each player. Also, after hitting one orb, the one it was tethered to will disappear after a short time. It can still be run into before it disappears, so avoid doing this if you want to avoid unnecessary damage. Ultima also has a new move that deals extremely high tank damage when he uses it, called Diffractive Laser. He will use this attack every minute or so, and it will hit for anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 damage. Be ready to have a tank cooldown ready every minute or so to reduce this damage. Another new attack he has will place a mark above 1 or 2 players' heads, depending on how low Ultima Weapon's HP is. When this happens, he will send out 2 homing laser balls that will explode either on contact with an enemy player or after a short period of time. Simply kite these around without kiting them into any of your party members. Their damage doesn't seem to be particularly deadly, but I still don't recommend eating them to the face. Ultima Weapon will now also have lasers he shoots out of his hands and eyes. He will usually do these in sets of 3, doing them one at a time. They deal several thousand damage, so once he marks an area, do your best to move out of it before the ground explodes. The last 2 attacks during this phase come in 2 add phases. At 40% and 25%, Ultima Weapon will summon several Magitech bits in the room. At 40%, he will summon a total of 6 Magitech bits, loosely grouped in the center. These little guys act as laser cannons that will constantly bombard the party with laser beams until they are killed. Expect to have to deal with large amounts of movement to stay away from these lasers while dealing with all of Ultima's attacks. Additionally, during this Magitech bit phase at 40%, he will summon 2 airships to crash into the center of the arena. The damage they deal is based on your proximity to the crash location, which will be clearly marked on the ground. Get far away from them to reduce the damage of the impact to just a few hundred damage per airship. Usually you take about 1,000 damage in this particular airship phase. Before he summons more Magitech bits, Ultima will do another Aetheric Boom at 30%, which will now summon a total of 3 sets of orbs. Handle these ones similarly to how you handled the previous ones. You can have a tank pop a cooldown and run through them while receiving healing, or group up and split the damage between several people as you run through them. Try to get rid of the short tether first so you have time to heal up before you deal with tethers 2 and 3. At 25%, Ultima will summon more Magitech bits, this time scattered around the outside of the room. Again, avoid lasers while dealing with all of Ultima's other mechanics during this phase. Most importantly, the airships that come crashing down in this phase will instead crash at the 4 corners of the map, making the only quote-unquote safe place in the center of the room. I use the quotes lightly because all of the Magitech bits will fire their lasers into the center of the room when you gather up there. Turn down your effects as much as possible so that you can properly dodge the lasers while being hit by a total of now 4 airships. The airships will deal a total of about 2,000 damage to everyone if you were close to the center of the room to reduce their damage. Finish off the Magitech bits and prepare for Ultima Weapon's final Aetheric Boom at 15%. Which will now summon 4 very short tethers that you must destroy as quickly as possible. For this, I recommend one off-tank eat 2 of them on one side with a defensive cooldown, while a group of DPS and healers pop the other 2 on the other side, since relying on one tank to cover this much ground so quickly can be quite risky. After that, just DPS Ultima Weapon as hard as possible, and congratulations on your victory. Good luck on the loot. Hope you got something nice. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, favorite, subscribe, and share for more Final Fantasy XIV information and videos, as well as some other Final Fantasy videos, as well as some other things I'm going to be doing for the year of 2014. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter, where you can get regular updates about the videos I'm posting, or you can ask me questions about Final Fantasy XIV, or really whatever. I'm not really too picky. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitch, where I do stream. I stream Final Fantasy XIV, classic Final Fantasy games, and I will be streaming a bunch of different games in 2014. I'm going to shoot over to the walkthrough right now, guys, so stay tuned to watch how we dealt with all of the fight all in one go with my commentary over it. Anyway, guys, again, thanks for watching. Until next time, take care. Alright guys, so let's do this walkthrough real quick. I really like doing this. Like, I should have been doing this since 2.0 for all of the ADS turns and everything. I definitely should have been doing this the whole time. But anyway, that's a story for another time, so let's get right into it. So anyway, we're starting the fight off right here, and our tank is holding him against the wall. Because of Mistral Shriek right here, you actually don't need to have Ultima face the wall right away. It may actually be safer to actually sort of turn the main tank towards the center of the room, just so you have quicker access to dodging Mistral Song in case it comes in your direction. And that's especially because of Vulcan Burst. But keep in mind that that could also end up resulting in Vulcan Burst knocking you into a Mistral Song. So it really depends on what direction Garuda ends up aiming. So if you want to play it the safest, just pop a defensive cooldown when Mistral Song comes if it's in your direction, just to be safe. So as you can see, we just dodged the outside vortexes and the Geo Crush. So pretty much I've just shown you the entire first 20% of the fight in about, what, it's been 45 seconds or something like that. Other than that, Cerulean Vent and Homing Missiles, it's just some additional damage, but the damage it does is very, very small. It's this phase when he starts doing Tank Purge that AoE damage really becomes a thing. So as you can see, we're moving in, and see there's this little safe spot in between all of the weights of land. You can just use that to avoid it if you don't really want to do moving in and then out, and then right now out and then in. It's just a lot safer to do it that way than it is to really keep moving in and out. It's unnecessary to do all that moving. So that was Tank Purge. As you can see, it does do a moderate amount of damage. Keep in mind, almost everyone in this party is in, close to full item level 90 gear, so it's really impressive how hard this fight does scale. As you can see here on the outside, there was that safe spot for the Weight of Lands as well. There's a lot more safe spots around the arena, all that look like that. Now, we're burning through the boss pretty quickly here, and you've only seen really Tank Purge. The tank swap just happened now. The tank swapped at 4 stacks, which is fine. I think 3 or 4 stacks works fine. They take so long to be applied that you really aren't going to have a problem with the tank who had them first really getting them again. The only way that would happen is if you were doing it maybe every 2 stacks, then that might cause problems. So as you can see, the Eruptions are on 2 different people. They are... This is a really easy way to kill your party members, by the way. As you can see, I couldn't see anything beyond the smoke of it, so definitely be careful here when you're running in circles. 1 Eruption won't kill you, but 2 or 3 definitely might, especially if you're, in the bare minimum for this. Item level 61 being the bare minimum for this. So there we go. We just had another Tank Purge hit the entire raid, and now we're going to have to deal with this new Eruption, these new Radiant Plume patterns. So there's Ifrit. As you can see, he's going to charge across the middle of the room. Warrior does not care because, well, he's a warrior. Monk took one to the face, but he'll be all right. We'll just get him up in a little bit. So these are the last Plumes. That was the last Ifrit charge. And at this point, you know the first 50% of the fight. First 50% goes really quickly. It doesn't feel that much more difficult than Ultima Weapon in the Praetorium. And the biggest difference is, for the primal part, you don't have a Hydaelyn giving you full HP and MP like you did in NTP in the story mode version of the fight. So just keep a cool head on your shoulders and you should be okay. As you can see, totally didn't care where I was running right there, but Ifrit did get dispelled in the middle of all that. So now he's in phase 2, and this is Aetheric Boom. These are those orbs that can definitely kill you if you're not careful. As you can see, a tank ate one with a single DPS. So the tank took a little bit reduced damage, but the DPS still died. I mean, granted, the DPS was weakened, but that's still a lot of damage to split 2 ways. So I definitely recommend splitting it with 4 people or so. 4 people is definitely a very safe number to split them with. And they definitely seem to do a lot less damage when you split them between that many people. So as you can see, Mark is above the White Mage's head. That orb is going to follow him while Ultima Weapon is shooting off these lasers. This is where a lot of things start to happen at the same time, but most of it are just, they're really thin and they're really, it requires a lot of movement, but the movements aren't all that difficult. So don't be too overwhelmed by all of the blue lights and laser beams and orbs flying around and the airships that are becoming, there's the airships right there. As you can see, they're pulsing outward, so just get towards the outside of the arena and you should be okay on this. As you can see, I only took about 400 damage from each of them. That was the free fire damage that you just saw right there. And now we're quickly cleaning up the remaining Magitek bits so we can stop avoiding these Forsaken lasers. Now at this point, you just have to be careful about the stack and as well as Diffractive Laser. Diffractive Laser can really catch you off guard. If you get hit by his auto attack and then you get hit by his stack and then you get hit by Diffractive Laser, you can take a sudden burst of damage, especially when it comes to the 4 airship phase coming up. And the Aetheric Booms, especially because sometimes main tanks eat Aetheric Boom. I personally wouldn't recommend doing that, but if you're over geared enough, it's completely possible to do. We should be coming up on another Aetheric Boom right here. There it is, Aetheric Boom. So he's going to knock us back. And here's the second pattern of the orb. So as you can see, there is one pretty close to Ultima's butt. Those are the ones I recommend breaking as soon as possible, but as long as you make sure they're all broken before they touch the middle, it doesn't really matter what order you go in. If you are close to a different one, break that one first if you're the tank that is going to be handling that sort of way that you're handling it there. Now, the way that we're going to handle the fourth Aetheric Boom, I'll go to when we get to it, but as you can see, we just got 2 more orbs and Magitech bits at the same time. So I would recommend focusing Magitech bits, especially in this part when they're all so far apart. As you can see, me and the Dragoon were technically focusing them, but I think that was just coincidence of us standing near each other because we didn't say, oh, let's get on this one. It just happened that way. So we tried to get in the center, and as you can see, it immediately goes to hell because not only did all the lasers fire off, but we can't see anything. It is really hard to see when those explosions go off. And then we got tank purged immediately after. And I think the tank gets Diffractive Laser right here. All of that damage can come in a very short time. So when these Magitech bits are up and you're dealing with the airships and Diffractive Laser, definitely be sure to be rotating cooldowns during the Magitech bit phase as the airships are coming down. It'll definitely save your life, but be sure you have a defensive cooldown available to you if you're a tank eating the Aetheric Booms in the next Aetheric Boom phase, which we're going to be coming up to very shortly. I mean, this fight isn't particularly long, and you do only have a 10-minute time limit in order to finish this fight. As you can see, there's little blue orbs sort of spawning in the air. Those signify how close he's getting to his enrage. The brighter those glow, the closer he's getting to his enrage. So you can just barely see them sort of forming in the air right now. And Ultima Weapon just hit 20%. So he's going to summon this orb on me, and I actually stopped DPS for a while. I don't know if you saw that there. I'm sure you did. I stopped DPS for a while because one time we did this fight, we got these orbs at the same time as the other orbs, and it just made it very awkward to try and eat those orbs while dealing with Aetheric Boom. So here's a tank purge, and then he's going to do Aetheric Boom. He just hit 15%. Now, we all group up loosely around here, so what's going to happen is the tank on the opposite end eats those two, ate that one, and the one to the south, while we ate the one to the north. Very quickly, as you can see, only hit for about 400 to 700 damage when we split it between that many people, which, considering how much damage it actually does to a single target if it hits them, or even 2 targets, that really surprises me how little damage that it did when we tried to split it like that. But it may have some sort of unique formula that makes it so that even if you hit it with more than 3 or 4 targets, that the damage is greatly reduced. But anyway, guys, that's it for Ultima Weapon. Hopefully you guys have a good fun time with this fight. Considering its difficulty, it drops some great loot, especially if you're still looking to progress in the Binding Coil of Bahamut. Ultima Weapon is a great place to get some accessories if Binding Coil is not being too nice to you. But definitely give this fight a shot, guys. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully I'll be doing it a lot more in 2.1. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Again, you know, the whole, whatever, you know, like, favorite, subscribe, and share. I did the whole spiel before, so don't worry too much about it. We got the Ultimate Choker of Aiming, which I've gotten. This is 3 videos now. I've gotten loot. That'll never happen again, so I'll enjoy it for the time being. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.